afternoon, everyone. So, the privilege to be here in ROSCON, Pune. So, I'm very grateful for the hospitality, for the opportunity to speak in front of such a accomplished crowd who are involved in such a wide variety of work and all. So, the topic that I'm going to discuss is on our ROS Gazebo-based mission planning for agriculture robotics in a mixed cropping scenario. So, I'm Amritesh, as you have seen. So, I'm part of a team comprising of Aditi, Rishika, and Nitya. And we are working under the aegis of Professor Devashish Ghosh, who is affiliated with the Robert Bosch Center for Cyber Physical Systems and Aerospace Engineering Department as well. So the name of our lab is GCDSL. So you might have heard about the lab. So this is a brief outline of the stuff that I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to parse the title of my talk. So as we are in ROSCON, so just to set up the mood, we'll just talk a little bit about the application of ROS in agriculture and agriculture robotics. Then we'll state what is mixed culture, mixed cropping, polyculture, and the various interesting scenarios that it entails. And the third point, that is the meatiest portion of our project. I mean, we are still in our initial phases. That is, we have a novel environment generation module, and the associated activities that are associated with the project are global path planning, local path planning. I will briefly motivate the existence of a scheme, a decision-making scheme, and whatever we have in store. So yes, so ROS for agriculture and agriculture robotics, if you just go on a casual Google search or Google Scholar search, you'll see tens and thousands and lakhs of views depending on what exact search topics you are entering. So worldwide, agriculture robotics based companies have been in vogue for the last 2 decades or more than so. So some of the key companies you can see in this slide, and I'm very amazed to have not included Indian companies. So coming here, I feel what a blunder that has been. I'm just motivated by the variety of works that various agricultural robotic startups have been doing on. So next year, when we are publishing the next version of this project, the whole slide will be comprising of Indian companies, I promise. So the main application areas for ROS in agriculture robotics has been in terms of 3D mapping of the crop canopy, crop coverage and all, terrain mapping, the crop monitoring, the phenotyping, the word I learned yesterday, that determining the health status of a crop, infestation level and all. And one particular example that we're interested in is vertical farming, or some other variants you can call it's urban farming, which entails precision agriculture and all. And if you want to, you can refer to the papers by Machinsky and his group to know generally about how ROS2 can be used for various practical projects. So this is a very nice schematic that I found in one of the agriculture engineering papers by Wang and his teams. So it meshes with the different topics that the different panelists, different other speakers might have talked about. So our system wants to mimic this, at least in simulation level, which will lead to the planning level. So the other speakers and other researchers and roboticists might be working on one or many of these other aspects, and they are doing fascinating work in integrating those in a single workflow. So the application that we are particularly interested in something called polyculture. So what is polyculture? I mean, an agriculture engineer might be making distinction between intercropping, polyculture, mixed cropping, crop diversification, so on and so forth. From the point of view of a roboticist, all of these areas, despite the nuances, they offer similar challenges from implementation point of view. So what is the main motivation for such a polyculture scenario is sustainability. So crop rotation is necessary for conserving the fertility of soil, nutrients, for crop resilience and so on and so forth. However, enforcing polyculture in a particular environment, it is more labor intensive, it requires more and more planning, and it's taxing generally, I mean logistics wise. So here in agriculture, robotics steps in, and ROS can help us augment the agriculture robotics scheme for this. So the current work that we're doing, we are mainly involved in the simulation and planning aspect of such thing. So this is a schematic for what polyculture or intercropping might be. In the left-hand side, leftmost panel, you can see several schemes for intercropping in various patterns and all. In the right-hand side, you'll see a representative simulation scenario that we have. And the downmost patch, it just highlights on one of the little patches that you can see. So what are the colors are, we'll describe later. Now, so this is a software architecture that is due to Neb Ludov. The schematic that I had shown earlier and this, there's no, conflict between these two. That's the schematic, and in order to realize the schematic, we need a software module that can take care of that. If you just deeply see this schematic, it has got several layers. If you're talking in terms of levels of architecture, it will level 0, level 1 to level N, whatever you can think. There will be a sensor layer, perception layers, task layers, actuator layers, many layers. So since the highlight of my work has mostly been in control, so we have been partially involved in developing the control and path planning part. However, since the focus of this talk is ROS, we'll focus on the novelty of the environment that we are working on, and that is going to be the main conversion. So the long-term project is to find an implementation for this whole scheme, and we will try to involve ROS as much as possible in the different modules. So this is a proxy of the previous schematic that you have seen. So as you can see, since modularity is supposed to be a main feature of ROS, so all the different layers that you had seen in the previous slide, we have reduced them to particular blocks. And these blocks, we are not discussing them in detail. This is just for convenience. And each of these blocks, they entail much research, and separate challenges for implementation and all. So the major components of the scheme, as you can see in the summary, are the environment generation. There will be local path planning. So there will be a sensing module, whether we'll be working with actual sensors or proxies for sensors, the different GPS models that we might have, and control and actuation level. So that will lead to the intercropping scenario that we are modeling. So I'm not going into details of that. For the environment generation, so polyculture, as I said, there will be many crops in different schemes. So the most general scheme of polyculture in which a crop can be present is in form of patches. So there will be n number of patches which can be as random as possible. If our scheme works for a random placement of patches, it will work for regularized crop patterns. That's the idea. So we want to push all the schemes to see whether it can address a random generation of plots. So as you can see, there's no rhyme and reason to deploying these crop patches. So we'll assume that these crop patches, they are covered by the same kinds of crop. So they will have the same crop cycle, as in they need similar level of care, watering, pesticides and all. And the first level of planning from each of the patches. So what we have done, we have generated a distance-based graph. So how we have generated this graph? We have, based on the endurance of the drones, so we have identified the patches that it can visit from time to time. Based on that, we have got a connected graph, directed graph. And existing paradigms like Dijkstra's algorithm or TSP, it can be applied. They can be applied for planning the drone from patch to patch. Now, this is the main focus of the environment generation. So the variable crop cycle generation, so this is the novel thing that we're proposing. So there had been some existing corn, maize deployment. So the existing models, they had blender generated models for corn, and they were just uniformly planted. They created variable sizes, canopies, or crop coverage and all. But however, they suffered from some limitations. for example, there was no structure to the grids. We did not have fine control over which grid in the agriculture tract could be planted or could not be planted. So we made the necessary adjustments to generate these plants. And so what are the different colors? These different colors, so let's refer them to as benefits. Suppose a crop is very much infested. It needs 5 pesticide sprays. So that will be assigned, say, black. That means it needs severe. So from most severe to least severe, we have color coded them. So the different colors that you see, they are different levels of crop health. So phenotypes, you can say. So there are some custom-made environments that we have proposed, namely grass world, and which are to be integrated with the ROS factory as a plugin. There are also provisions for incorporation of trees and ponds or real-life obstacles that you can see in real-life agricultural field. So there are 5 stages, 5 distinct facets of this environment generation. The first one is the deployment of the conventional corn or maize-based environment. Now, while modifying that, we have simplified the pixel level implementation. We have adjusted the individual crop levels so that we can control the orientation of the individual crop units. We have generalized it for arbitrary sized agriculture tracts, and the spawn entity, that's a specialized tool, that's a specialized package that we have developed for incorporating the whole scheme into the ROS factory and all. So the third stage, so there's a video, I believe it's working and all. So once one particular patch has been deployed, so we'll be modeling how a camera might be seeing. So downward facing camera, iris camera mounted on the downside of a UAV that will be hovering over the crops and will be checking by image recognition under variable lights the particular health stage that are in. So for example, it is for the time being identifies something in black status. That means it requires 5 sprays to take care of. And yes, so this logic, that is the contribution of the current logic, our current package and all. So let's jump to the final system contribution. So we have color coded. So a user, if they are in want of more crop cycle resolutions, you can calibrate it from 1 to 10 for more fine pesticide spraying or care. You can modify it. And another utility of such modification is that you can apply your custom-made global path planning or local path planning schemes. You can address these plants as grid points, which was not very apparent in the original base point. So it was great for visualization, but for integrating guidance and control algorithms in that, it was not very amenable, and we have developed it to be amenable towards any control scheme that you like. And yes, the technical developments have been a hue saturation based classification. That part is under construction, where we can try out the whole thing, the iris model under variable lighting conditions, where RGB might or might not work. And yes, right. So this is just the detailed description of the UAV model and the camera model that we'll be using. So if you just refer to the spawn entity and image drop from the GitHub of the program, you can study in detail. And yes, so this is the GUI, the tentative form of the GUI that is there. So as you can see, black means it requires maximum number of sprays for mitigation of the pest scenario. Starting from healthy to unhealthy, you can color code it. For environment generation, you can manually set the levels. And the GUI, it is amenable to change. You can add more features to that. And yes, so this is the final, this is a typical status, the camera status that you can see. So For example, there is a orange state, there's a intermediate yellow stage and all. And yes, so this is a summary of the agriculture scenario that's still our work under progress. So the different aspects, the path planning aspects, we have just applied TSP and all. You can plug and play your module as well. So the overall system, it will integrate the environment modeling, the different perception models, classification, visualization, user in loop control, sequential multi-target mission into a cohesive scheme. So that's the idea. And these are the future scopes. As you can see, each of these models, you can tailor-made to your requirement. If you have a very novel control scheme that you want to try out for some specified applications, you can just put it into that block, keeping everything else as it is. So the future extensions and the other functionalities that we're looking for is the UIDF incorporation. Suppose you want to try out for a different class of UAVs and to see if that thing works. You can incorporate into the scheme and see if the existing crop scenario is serviceable by another class of robots and all. So, I mean, the integration with existing widely available MATLAB simulation or something other, that is also an option that will be part of a future work. And that is the main challenge, is incorporation of foot traffic. I mean, agriculture laborers moving in the, farmers moving inside of the scheme. If this scheme works in presence of farmers and other forms of dynamic obstacles, that will be the cherry on the top. So that is all about the work we have done. And just to note that this work is partially funded by Art Park. So thank you all.